Because somewhere at the bottom of Lake Ontario, there are classified Cold War aircraft covered in zebra mussels, an invasive species from Russia. And those aircraft are tied to one of the most advanced interceptors ever built. But they weren't full aircraft, not even close. They were 1/8 scale test models of the Avro CF-105 Arrow. Most stories have another side. This one's just a little stranger. I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Air Park. Let's dive in. Alright, let me tell you about one of the greatest what-ifs in aviation history. A machine so advanced, so ambitious, that even today it still feels ahead of its time. This is the story of the Avro CF-105 Arrow. It's the early 1950s. The Cold War is heating up, and the nightmare scenario is simple. Soviet nuclear bombers flying straight over the North Pole with nothing to stop them. Canada sits directly in the path, so instead of relying entirely on the United States, Canada decides to build its own answer, not just a fighter jet, an interceptor, unlike anything the world has ever seen. The Royal Canadian Air Force issues a requirement so aggressive it almost sounds impossible. They want a jet that can cruise at Mach 1.5, operate at 50,000 feet, pull high G turns without losing speed, and land, refuel, and be airborne again in under 10 minutes. Even today, that's a tall order. A company called Avro Canada steps up, and what they design is massive. A sleek delta wing interceptor with a 2-man crew and the length of a World War II bomber. This wasn't just a jet, it was a statement. Now, here's where things get bold. Instead of building prototypes first, Avro uses something called the Cook-Craigie plan. They built the production line first and started building aircraft immediately. No safety net, no slow rollout, just full commitment. Even their own engineers admitted it was terrifying. And the tech inside? Straight out of science fiction. Early fly-by-wire concepts. An artificial feel system to simulate control feedback. A 4,000 psi hydraulic system, far beyond the norm at the time. And then, the engine. The Orenda Iroquois, packed with titanium, lightweight, insanely powerful, and incredibly difficult to build in the 1950s. To test it, they bolted it onto one side of a Boeing B-47 Stratojet. One side, near the tail, which made the aircraft an absolute handful to fly. On October 4th, 1957, the Arrow rolls out in front of 13,000 people, a moment of national pride. But that same day, the Soviet Union launches Sputnik 1, and just like that, the world changes. The threat shifts from bombers to missiles. Despite everything they push forward, on March 25, 1958, test pilot Janusz Zurakovsky takes to the air. The flight, nearly flawless. Out of thousands of components, only 2 small switches fail. His biggest complaint? No clock in the cockpit. And performance? It nearly reaches Mach 2. Exactly what it was designed to do. But behind the scenes, the program was collapsing under its own weight. Costs were skyrocketing. Missile systems are delayed, and the world is rapidly shifting towards intercontinental ballistic missiles. Then comes February 20th, 1959, Black Friday. Prime Minister John Diefenbaker stands in Parliament and cancels the entire program. Just like that, 14,000 people out of work. One of the most advanced aircraft programs in the world, gone. But it didn't stop there. The government orders everything destroyed. The aircraft, the engines, even the blueprints, cut apart with blowtorches. A project erased. Except, you can't erase something like that. Pieces were hidden. Documents were saved. Rumors spread that an entire aircraft survived, hidden away somewhere. And decades later, search teams found something else. Those test models, shot into Lake Ontario in the 1950s, were still there. Recovered from the bottom, covered in zebra mussels. From Russia. And then, comes the part no one saw coming. After the cancellation, many of Avro's top engineers leave Canada, and they end up working for NASA. One of them helps lead the Gemini program. Another plays a key role in designing the lunar module. And together, they help make the Apollo program possible. So, in a strange twist of history, the death of Canada's most advanced aircraft helped put a man on the moon. The Arrow never entered service. It never protected Canadian skies. And it never got the chance to prove what it could really do. But somehow, it still became one of the most legendary aircraft ever built. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories in aviation aren't about what flew the longest or the fastest. They're about what almost was. And that wraps up another tale from aviation's stranger side. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.